the lead lawyers of the case, the petition that was before the Sports Disputes Tribunal, that is lawyer CBG, or whom he calls himself such, CBG, is also a professor at Catholic University. And we want to look at some of the specific areas the SDT pronounced itself on. And one of them is that there's a declaration and an order is issued that therefore these FKF elections that were intended to be conducted on the 27th of March are now put off. Milton, the SDT said, look, the elections that you intended to conduct shall be put off. Why?
They were very clear that for contravention or non-compliance to Article 81 and 38 of the Kenyan Constitution, Article 81 talks about the principles of democracy, and Article 38 is on the political rights. Now, those two read together, the reading and the argument by the tribunal is that by having an exclusionary eligibility criteria, what FKF had done, they had denied potential aspirants or candidates the right to exercise their political rights as established in Article 38 of the Constitution, and further went ahead to argue that in limiting a right as provided for under Article 24, you must give justifiable reason. And therefore the tribunal found that in limiting the political rights of the aspirants or would-be aspirants, they had not offered any justifiable reason as required by Article 24 of the Constitution, and therefore that was obvious. But I would extend it further and say that one of the arguments that had been put before the tribunal was that, again, the principles of democracy enshrined in Article 81 are also similar or mirrored in the preamble of the second paragraph of the preamble to the FIFA Standard Electoral Code that requires that members perfect the code, the Standard Electoral Code, and scrupulously ensure that it is adhered to. So I think that went without saying when you put conditions that are meant to give a certain constituency an advantage over the open majority that would want and would have genuine interest in the elections.
Yeah, CBG, lawyer CBG, if you are listening, there is this contention by the SDT that, well, FKF got almost everything right, but towards the end of that ruling, they struck it down and said, look, this is a matter of greatest importance. And that is where they decided that the FKF elections were not going to continue. What did you make of that reading? If you may come back again.
Okay. Now, first, let me say that I salute the tribunal for coming to that conclusion. Now, the conclusion of the tribunal is not limited to candidature, because in the petition that was filed by Bondeni Football Club, the arguments about eligibility went beyond candidature and also included eligibility to vote. Now, if you look at the opening paragraph of the ruling of the tribunal, specifically paragraph 12, where they are discussing the factual background, they say that what they say is no more than a concise summary of the relevant facts, but they've taken into account all the other arguments in the written submissions and in the pleadings. Now, in the pleadings, we attacked both eligibility of candidature and eligibility to vote. Now, the tribunal struck out Section 4 of the Electoral Code. That section is the one that provides for both eligibility for candidature and eligibility to vote. So my understanding of the decision of the tribunal is that the criteria that locked out clubs from voting was struck out. Similarly, the criteria that locked out certain candidates from participating was also struck out. So the tribunal simply said everybody has a right to vie and everybody has a right to participate. That is my understanding of the finding of the tribunal.
Have to be rules of engagement. Of course, CBG, you cannot just come from anywhere and say that you want to take part in FKF elections.
Absolutely, and we fall back on the constitution of FKF and specifically Article 35. Article 35 provides that members have a right to vote. So the moment you strike out at Section 4 of the Electoral Code, the Constitution provides a fallback position, and the Constitution says that all members of FKF have a right to vote. That right is limited when it comes to voting for the president and the running mate, because those ones have to be elected at the elective assembly. But the rest of the leadership of the federation is not elected at the elective assembly. They will now be elected by the clubs who are participating in FKF organized or FKF authorized activity. That's my understanding.
There are two things that you made very interesting observations, and in that ruling, the tribunal actually cited one of your arguments. You said that there's no way the president, the vice president, and several other counties that officials cannot just go in unopposed. And then there was a point where you were mentioning something to do with eligibility, and we say that it's not right that former footballers are locked out of participating in such elections.
Yes. If you look at the eligibility criteria in Section 4, if today Joe Masiga was to seek to contest for a position in a sub-branch of Football Kenya Federation, he will be locked out because he has not been an active administrator, a coach, or a player in 3 of the last 4 years. Similarly, any candidate or any NEC member who lost in the 2016 election is automatically locked out. So what we are saying, how can you justify a criteria that will lock out all our former international footballers? Joe Masiga, Peter Dow, Goro Ronge, name them. None of them is eligible. Similarly, if you are a former president of FKF and you lost the election in 2016, under Section 4 of the Electoral Code, you are not eligible to contest. And our contention is that such a restraint is not justifiable and offends both Article 81 of the Constitution and also the FKF Constitution itself, which gives every member the right to vie and nominate.
SDT obliged, and they granted you that prayer?
Yes, they did.
Okay. What about the president, the vice president, and about officials in 39 counties or 35 going unopposed? What did you say about that?
You see, the problem again was the eligibility criteria. You see, this eligibility criteria gave branch chairmen and branch secretaries the exclusive right to decide who was eligible to vote. Now, those branch chairs and branch secretaries are themselves candidates. So we had an eligibility criteria which gave a player the right to decide who was going to vote and the right to decide who was going to participate. So we thought that was completely inappropriate, and to the extent that the tribunal struck out the whole of Section 4, we say that our arguments were upheld.
And finally, before I let you go, the SDT invited or requested FIFA to form a normalization committee. Does FIFA have an obligation to abide by that request?
I would say yes. I would say they have an obligation.
Statute.
Because if they don't, then they would create a very abnormal situation where we have a federation without a leadership. So FIFA has an obligation to normalize the abnormal situation we are in today, where we have a national football association without a leadership. Now, FIFA has a responsibility to the clubs that are playing football in Kenya to do something about the situation.
Hold that thought. You say that a federation that has no leadership, but of course, other people believe that Nick Mwendwa is still in office.
Well, the ruling of the tribunal was unambiguous. It said, for the avoidance of any doubt, the term of the National Executive Committee has come to an end. Now, the president is part of that National Executive Committee whose term has come to an end. The tribunal's finding on that regard is unambiguous. The tribunal also found that the leadership of the federation as presently constituted is unable or unwilling to organize a credible election. So they decided, let's have an alternative leadership appointed by FIFA. We cannot have two parallel leaderships, one led by the president and another one led by the normalization committee appointed by FIFA. So as things stand now, the federation doesn't have a leadership. That is an abnormal situation that calls for normalization.
Those are profound thoughts from lawyer CBG Ouma. And as you know, FIFA is still considering that request, and they have up to 1 month. And the court ruled that they go back on April 21st for final directions relating to the matter. I think I would say thank you very much, CBG, for those insightful thoughts. I'll let you go and finish it with Milton Nyakundi in studio. You were at the tribunal, you made your presentations, and some of them, your prayers were upheld by the court. But then one thing that has struck me is the way the government has let the process follow the due course from the tribunal and then the request to FIFA, and now we are waiting. The Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Ambassador Amina Mohammed, hasn't got herself entangled in all this. Is this the right way to go? And has she done well on this matter?
Absolutely. It is the right way to go. It is the right thing, because we did argue before the tribunal that the term of office had ended. And I cited the ruling by Justice John Mwera in 2004 in similar circumstances in civil suit number 58 of that year. And the tribunal did agree. And like senior CBG has alluded, is that in paragraph 12, the tribunal was categorical that it had considered the pleadings, including the detail of the written submissions that we made as interested parties. So for me, I think we have gone the right way, and it is the right thing to do. That we needed to invite FIFA to obviously put together a caretaker committee. It is within the law, it is within the Sports Act, and it would be interesting to see if FIFA indeed would, be hesitant to take the decision that has been recommended to them, then I'm waiting to see. And one of the questions, over the weekend, we've seen a lot of talk and hype that FIFA, their suggestions, anonymous sources being quoted from Zurich, that, FIFA has come to the decision that the Kenyan situation does not meet the threshold. I think CBG has made it very crystal clear. But one of the things we have said is that we would be waiting. Personally, I would be very, very anxious to see how that letter from FIFA would be structured, and what provisions of their own statutes, what provisions of the FKF statutes they would be relying on to premise that argument that there is no need for a normalization
one thing
committee
that should interest you is that we've covered this football, we've covered the previous bans by FIFA. Anytime there was a decision, especially in the ordinary courts, there would be a letter coming. But now, it's almost a week, FIFA is quiet. Is it that they agree or they uphold the rule of law following this special sports dispute tribunal?
It is obvious, and I have no doubt in my mind that FIFA respects the authority of the sports disputes tribunal as having jurisdiction to hear disputes relating to football in Kenya. And if anybody had any doubt, you need just to go back to February 17th when FIFA was unambiguous about the decision that was made by the same tribunal on 3rd of December 2019. Yes. And it was very categorical that they needed to hold elections within their term, and in so doing, they do so in compliance with the directives of the SDT. And where there was a bit of stiff necks, they said they wanted to see any agreements or any suggestion that stakeholders had conceded or ceded certain ground in terms of the positions they held. And therefore, anybody trying to suggest that FIFA would not agree with the SDT, I think they are misguided or they are living in absolute denial.
That is Milton Nyakundi giving his thoughts on what is going on, and we've been talking about 3 issues here. The Olympics may be put off, that's according to Japan Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and also Kenya will be waiting with bated breath. A decision by the FIFA Disciplinary Committee, they are sitting today to give a way forward over the 109 million shillings owed to former Harambee Stars coach Adel Amrouche. And again, we are waiting for FIFA's decision regarding the formation of a normalization committee to give us a way forward over the impasse within the Football Kenya Federation. Mike Gitonga is back here for the next bit of the session. Mike, you've been listening to this conversation. The Olympics may be put off, and of course, again, Kenya have to wait until this evening to know its fate at the FIFA Disciplinary Committee.
Yeah, definitely tough times that we are living in. Of course, a lot of uncertainty in every segment. Sports is not left out. And even with COVID-19, nobody knows how anything is going to play. Because even matters in court may be suspended for a while, given that judges and lawyers may also have to stay away. And we've been given the directive, stay home. In fact, the only capsule that we have to take right now for COVID-19 is staying home.
Staying home.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, some of us still have to come to work. But of course, maintaining the social distance and making sure that not too close to Toskin. And well, this is where we wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching Morning Express. We take this opportunity to wish you all a fantastic and a wonderful day. And remember, stay at home unless you really are providing critical services. The word that is going around right now is stay home, stay home, stay home. Do have yourselves a good day. God bless.